Hi everyone, I'm Alpha. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be doing red crab soup. Plenty of great ingredients in this recipe. I got it offline, but I put my own twist on it to make it my own, you could say. I'll give you a list of the ingredients and we'll get started. Alright, hold on. Okay, as with most soups, going to start out with our chicken broth. This also calls for, now I'm doubling this recipe, so everything you're seeing is actually doubled. Normally it would be 1 can of diced tomatoes, and I'm using 2 obviously. It would normally be a 14-ounce can of sauce. I'm gonna use a 28-ounce. Minced garlic calls for a half a teaspoon normally. I'm using a whole one. Salsa, this is what gives it its kick. Normally it calls for a cup. I'm using 2. Diced peppers and onions normally calls for a half a cup of each. I'm doing a cup each. The spices that we throw in there, these are already mixed up right here. I got my parsley flakes. It normally calls for 3 teaspoons. I'm using 6. Oregano normally calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm using a half. Basil, again, same thing. Pepper. Pepper is usually to taste. The normal recipe calls for 1/8 of a teaspoon. I use about 1/4, maybe a little less. And Old Bay. Normally the recipe doesn't even call for this, but I really like the flavor of it, and I throw in just under 1/8 of a teaspoon into this recipe. So if you were to split that in half, it would be like a 1/16 of a teaspoon. It calls for some shrimp. I also like to throw in some bay scallops. I cook these down and then dice them up into the soup. Wine, it calls for a cup normally. I'm sorry, a half a cup normally. And I'm going to go with a whole cup because I'm doubling the recipe. I want a lot of soup. Crab, yeah. Crab, you can go with snow crab as I am here. Dungeness crabs work great. Blue crab, obviously. You can also substitute it with lobster too, and it's a nice switch. A little more of the expensive variety there. Yeah, so I'm going to get started. I'm going to open up these crabs and get all the meat out, and we'll start cooking. All right, hold on, guys. Okay, guys, while I'm at this crab opening, I'm going to show you a method that I use. This is just a normal leg piece, and some people use the crackers, you know, clip, clip, clip. Personally, I don't. What I do is after I break off the ends and pull out that these here wily nerve ending things, they slide right out when you break it. What I do is I take a fork and I stick the fork right under the crab shell, but not the meat, and simply pull up. And once you do that, the crab will open up, and out comes a beautiful piece of crab meat. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah. All right, let me get this going and we'll start cooking. Hold on. Okay, guys, I got the crab all taken care of now, and I'm going to tell you, that's the longest part of this entire recipe is deshelling the crab meat. You can always use imitation or canned, but I like getting my hands right in there and making sure there's no shells and no cartilage. Very important. You don't want to have a soup where you get a piece of cartilage or a piece of shell. It destroys the entire soup. Believe me, I've done it. I know. So what I'm doing right now is just heating up a little bit of oil, 1 tablespoon, just so I can cook up the shrimp and scallops real quick. I don't put them in the soup raw. I actually cook them and dice them and add them in. I have plenty of crab. This soup is going to be fantastic. So let me get started on this. Shrimp and scallops. Get that in there, and we'll start sauteing that, and we'll take it from there. All right. I hope everybody's having a great day today. For me, it's Sunday. I believe today is the 12th of July, 2015. And I need my pan to come up to temp a little bit here. and we'll be right with it. Okay, hold on, let me get this cooked up and we'll go to the next step. Okay guys, another little tip. When you're sauteing the shrimp and the scallops, you only want the shrimp to turn pink and the scallops to be just cooked. If you can push on the scallops and they break, they're not quite done. So they want to be a little firm. Okay. Also, some people prefer to add some kind of spice when they're sauteing their shrimp and scallops. I don't, because that just adds too much flavor, too much extra to the soup, and you can spoil it and overspice the soup. The only added ingredient that I use in my soup is the Old Bay seasoning. I hope I didn't say Old Spice before. That would be wrong. It's yep, the Old Bay seasoning. I only use like maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon, and that's in a double batch. So it's very powerful, and it's just designed to give that little bit of seafood flavor. And this is just about done, so I'll be ready to add the main ingredients to the soup and dice these up. These go in last with the crab, and it's only to simmer for the final 10 minutes, and then the soup will be done. The longest part now is boiling down the tomatoes and that stuff. It takes about 20 minutes or so. Let me get that stuff going, and we'll go to the next step. Hold on, people. Okay, guys, my cleaver of choice. This is a Hinkle. Good stuff. Cutting board. These are my shrimps and scallops. I'm just going to dice these up. Nothing huge. I mean, I don't want huge, giant pieces, but I also don't want it too small. So we're just going to go ahead and dice these. You know, all the pieces should be cut pretty much. That's looking pretty good. Again, I don't want everything diced completely. It should be cut up. You know, you get a little more out of it too that way. So the scallops, voila. That's pretty much it. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'll add this to my crab meat. This crab meat right here is all beautiful meat. It's about 2 cups. Normally it calls for 12 ounces or so. 16 ounces is a pound. I go with, you know, about 2 cups worth or so. And then I'm going to add my diced scallops and shrimp to this. Voila. And I wash my hands all the time, like unbelievable. So give me 1 second here, and I'm going to wash them again. Soap and water. And now I'm going to mix this together real quick. This is my crab, scallop, and shrimp. This is the meat of the soup, baby. The good stuff. All right, that looks fantastic. Okay, well, let me wash my hands again. And we'll get going down the soup. Hold on 1 second. Excellent. Okay, be right with you guys. Hold on. Okay, folks, my oil is nice and hot. I'm going to saute 2 cups of diced onion and pepper. We're going to get that going. And get this saute. How long do you saute this? Well, the onion should turn slightly translucent, not necessarily brown, but translucent. We're going to give this a few minutes here, and I'll stir this out, and I'll show you how I like it to look before we add the rest of the garlic, which is the next step. Okay? Hold on, guys. Okay, folks, while I'm waiting for my onions to be nice and sauteed, my onions and peppers, I might as well mix up my water ingredients. Actually, there's no water, but these are the wet ingredients I call water ingredients. It calls for, normally on a normal recipe of this soup would be 3/4 of a cup of chicken broth. I'm adding 1 cup of chicken broth. Okay, and again, a part of my flair, something I just, do differently, is I add a 1/2 cup of the stock from when I did the crabs. So this is the crab stock. I just add that in there too. Okay. Next is calls for normally a 1/2 cup of wine. I'm doing a double batch, so full cup, 1 full cup of wine. No worries, this will all come to a boil, and that alcohol will be boiled off. Okay, so let me go check out my my onions over here, my peppers, and see how these are coming. Oh yeah, that's what I like. Okay. Sorry, I don't want to steam up the camera here, but trust me, they look pretty damn good. Okay, let me get the rest of the ingredients going here, and next step. Normally calls for 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic. I'm doubling it, so whole teaspoon minced garlic. Okay, put that off the heat for a minute. Oh yeah, that's what we like. Perfect. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to my wet ingredients. So hold on, folks, okay? Okay, guys, the first ingredients were my water ingredients. The chicken stock, the crab meat stock, the wine, the chicken broth, and all that jazz. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that boil just a little bit before I add the tomato sauce, the diced tomatoes, and the salsa. Okay, hold on. Let's get this to a boil. Okay, guys, you can see starting to get to a nice boil here. That's going to cook off that alcohol real quick. I'm just going to let it boil here for a couple minutes. Nothing too serious. Then I'll pull it from the heat once I determine that alcohol is pretty much cooked off. And then we'll add the other stuff. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, everyone, now that I have that boiled down sufficiently for myself, I'm going to add all the tomato-based products. I'm going to start with tutto rosso. This is the best. No salt added. Seafood itself has salt. You don't need it. So let's dump that there in first. All right, that's the crushed tomato. Some people use spaghetti sauce. I prefer this. Okay. Next is diced tomatoes. They want 2 cans. Well, normally it's 1 can, but again, I'm doubling the entire recipe. So 2 cans diced tomatoes, no salt added, and unstrained. So get those in there. There's 1 can. And the second can. Again, diced, no salt added. Great stuff. My honey has hypertension now, so we can't have the salt. And finally is 2 cups of medium salsa. Normally this would be 1 cup, but because I'm doubling the recipe, we go with 2 cups. And this is what gives the soup the nice kick flavor. It's fantastic. So that's going right in. Okay, let's stir this up. We got to bring this to a boil. It has to be a heavy boil, and then simmer it for about 20 minutes. Then we add our crab, and guess what? The soup will be done, folks. Simmer an extra 10 minutes or so, and that's that. Okay. Oh yeah, that's already starting to look really good. Tomatoes, onions, peppers, garlic, salsa. Good stuff. All right, let me clean up a little bit and get this to a boil, and we'll take it from there. Hold on. Aha! One last step. As this is coming to a boil, my dry ingredients, the basil, the parsley, the oregano, the black pepper, and the Old Bay seasoning, all mixed up in here. I'm going to add that right in, and we'll stir that together. Get that all mixed in there really well, and when that comes to a boil, that's going to blend right in with the soup. That's what gives some really good flavor in there. No garlic, aside from the mince. They don't call for powdered garlic, or no salt. Don't need it. The seafood itself is salty enough. All right, let's get that to a boil. Looking good. And we'll see how it goes. I'll be back. Hold on. Guys, my soup is almost halfway done with its simmer. And I've noticed that it is a little on the thicker side today than I normally would have it. It's almost stew-like, and that is not what I want. So I'm going to go and add a little bit more of the chicken broth. Now you can add this, or you can go back, and if you saved more of the crab meat stock, that's fine too, and you can just add some of that. And this is going to water it down a little bit and make it more of a soup rather than a stew, which is exactly what I'm looking for. After I add all that crab and shrimp and scallops, it's going to also absorb some of that liquid, so don't worry about it. You're not going to kill the flavor by adding the chicken broth, believe you me. Okay, let's turn that heat back up. I want to get that back to a boil. Yeah, there we go. And now that's a lot looser. That's what we want. Okay, bring back to a boil, and then let it finish simmering. And then I'll add the crab and the scallop and shrimp. Let it simmer for another 10 minutes, and it's soup time. Hold on, guys. Okay, folks, I just put in the crab, scallops, and shrimp, and we're going to stir that in. Yeah, now we're talking. Now we're talking. That's a soup right there. Stuff is so good. I wish you could smell it through the camera. I tell you what, it's awesome. Now, people do different variations again with this soup. A Maryland-style red clam soup, red crab soup, I'm sorry, consists of lima beans and corn as well. I prefer mine to be just tomato-based crab soup with Southwest flair, and that's with the medium hot salsa. Aside from I'm telling you, this stuff is out of this world. You try this, and you're gonna love it. I'm gonna let it cook now for the final 10 minutes, and bon appetit. Hold on, guys. Okay, everyone, my soup is now complete. Looks fantastic. Scallops, shrimp, and crab meat, along with that medium salsa. Tell you what, this stuff has a great seafood flavor, plus that Southwest kick. It's delicious. I can't wait to sit down and have a big bowl of this. Just to let you know, prep time on this for me was over an hour because I did all the crab by hand. If you bought the mince, you know, the canned crab or the imitation crab, if you wanted to go that route or something like that, it will take you a whole lot less time for prep. Cook time is 40 minutes. You gotta give some time for your onions and your peppers to saute, around 10 minutes or so. And then you bring your liquids to a boil, and that's about 20 minutes simmer time. And then you add your crab and that stuff at the end, and let it simmer again for maybe 10 minutes, and that's it, man. You're good to go. Like I said, you can shorten the prep time if you go with the pre-cooked shrimp and stuff like that. The scallops, good luck getting those pre-cooked. You're gonna have to saute them no matter what. But the finished product speaks for itself. I'll tell you what. Do you see how much crab? Oh, look at that. Oh my God. Oh, all right. Well, till next time, guys. This is Al Fu, and this is Cooking with Al Fu. Take care.